DR fam, hope everybody's doing well. Everybody had a great weekend and a great start to this week. Let's do a little DR recap and see what the market's doing for us. And I mean, overall, we've been really having some really good trade opportunities. The last even into last week. So Santa rally, CPI, et cetera, et cetera. All those good things. We'll take it. So let's run through quick recap today. Won't hold you long. I promise. I'm gonna try. All right. But anyway, so let's go through it. So ES on the left side, NQ on the right side. Before I forget, remember we're getting close to having to switch over our contracts to the March contracts. So you might want to start looking at that and setting your charts up for March, over the next week or so. All right. But we're still on the December contracts right now. All right. So let's talk about it real quick. ES was easy today, right? And what I mean by that was basically we had like really one DR trade that we should have looked at. All right, following the rules like we talk about. And let me maximize this one real quick, then we'll come back to over to NQ. All right, so let's go. Okay, so this is ES. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And what we want to see is, right, so we had a nice confirmation here. Okay. And then now here's the tricky part, and this is where again this depends on what your strategy is. Now here you notice we came down to right back down to DR high, all right, but we did not go below DR high. We know we're trying to look for price to come down below DR high, then move back up. So that didn't happen here. So if you're truly following the rules, that's not a trade you're going to take. So you may have thought, oh man, I missed it because it started to move back up a little bit. But if you notice what happens over at noon, right around lunchtime, boom, we come back down below DR. Actually came down below IDR kind of, but again, we're so close from a a range standpoint, which we had about an 18-point range today. But if you look at IDR and DR, really was no gap in between that range, right? So if you got in on either one of those, took the trade. Now, if you left your stop loss alone, right now, we're going from, let's say 40, it's about 28. That takes me, and this one takes me up to 35. So what's that, 5? Yeah, that's a nice 5-point trade right here, if you'd have taken that one. Now, if you're a little more patient, right, so that was the only entry from a DR standpoint today, right, on the ES. That was our only entry. So you could have taken that trade, got your points, and gotten out. Boom, right, you've done your job. Now, if you were patient and you had now my stop loss would have been down here somewhere, right? So if you were patient and you saw this happen and you did not get out of the trade, then you would have had this really beautiful run up all the way up to basically the rest of the day. And so that becomes now, from, let's say we said 28, I came, things in my way. So let's see. So from 28, if you got out, let's say around 3 something, so let's say you've got out for at that top, right? So which is around 47. So that's almost a 20-point trade. Okay. So just by being patient, and letting it do its thing. Okay. So, again, really easy on ES, only one trade to take. And so that's that. Okay. All right. So now let's jump over and we'll look at NQ. And NQ was a little bit more tricky, right? Had more opportunities. So if you missed the first one, there's potential for you to get the second one. And it's something I do want to talk about on NQ. So let's see. So here again, we confirm high. Now here on NQ, we actually did come down and pierce that DR high. Okay. So if you were, aggressive on it, you could have put your order on and taken it up, right? And then hopefully gotten out, close to the top of that before it start to move the other direction. All right. So again, so that's one trade. Yes, you could have taken that. And that's about, let's see, 280. So that's about 20. Yeah, it's a good 20 points on that. So that's actually not a bad trade. Depending on what your stop loss and your take profit targets were. But if your take profit was maybe just a little bit bigger, if your take profit was 20 points, then that's a plus trade for you there. All right, so now, so then the next thing you notice is that price comes back down. All right, we come back down again. We go up and we come back down and go below DR high again. Now this time, all right, here's what I say it's tricky, right? Because if you'd have taken that trade off of this DR high, yeah, you'd have probably gotten stopped out there just because it, ended up coming back down, depending on where your stop loss was. Okay, and so that's where it gets a little tricky for me on NQ, because I'm not really sold on stop loss yet as far as like where I put it. ES easy, 5 points max, I'm out, right? NQ moves a lot faster, and it's a lot more rangy. So this one I'm still figuring out. So I am not sure if I would have gotten out of that trade or wouldn't stopped out of that trade. Okay, the only thing I will tell you is I would have followed the rules. So if I would have gotten stopped out, then that's cool. I would have gotten stopped out, because you're all right. So here's one that, again, that's a tricky one, because again, you'd have got in for the price to go this way, and then you could have potentially gotten stopped out coming down to, right, we're down to midnight. So now the difference between midnight and the IDR and the DR, it's 80. So that's a good 25 points. You'd really have to have a more aggressive stop loss to handle that kind of heat. I don't think I would have done that. All right, just being honest. Okay, so +1, probably a -1 over here. Next trade come down, you see what we have. Price comes down and it hits our midnight open, which again, we like that as a support resistance, right? We always talk about that, we haven't talked about it in a while, but that's potential there. So if you don't, so you see price start to move off. Now here's where we say you could actually have gotten in here on IDR high and taken this run up, which would have led you to this, come back down. It would not have crossed IDR high. So, if your stop loss is down here, you still would have been in this trade, and you can, kind of do that pattern, right? So that's another trade you could have taken. If you didn't take this trade, let's say you could have taken this trade and done the, kind of the same thing with a little bit of heat on that, based on where your stop loss is, would have been some heat right here for them to move back up, right? So what I'm saying is, again, you just have to understand what your strategy is from a take profit and a stop loss standpoint, because that would have, again, been a nice trade. Now, if you had missed all that and you came back in at, right before 1 o'clock, you could have seen this. You would have seen this move, and then boom, you could have taken that trade, right? So 3 opportunities, but again, you'd have to have the patience. With this one, again, you'd have been stopped out, probably. This one, you had to have a little patience. I'm sorry, this one, you'd have to have a little patience. Let me make that, right? So here, you'd have to have patience for it to come up, come down, and go back up. But then here, again, here, you'd have to have patience. So it's just, again, how patient are you? And where do you see those, how much, are you scalping, or are you trying to hold for a certain point percentage, right? So, like I said, today, ES was easy. NQ was a lot more, it could have been a lot more profitable if you have traded it a certain way. So really, that's up to you. But, that's the great part about having both these indices. You can actually pick which one makes the most sense for you. And like I said, I think I've told you guys before, I have honestly been spending most of my time on the NQ. Did pass a couple of funded challenges. Actually, last Friday, I passed one just on Friday. So I have to wait. I have to play around for a couple of days with just moving, taking one tick trade so I can, formally pass that one. So, so again, and that's all based off NQ. That was just one day on NQ. So, not saying do NQ if you're learning, if you're growing. ES moves slower, and ES moves a little bit more predictable to me as of right now. But I spent a lot of time on ES, where again it's been less than a month that I've been really on the NQ. So, all right. Anyway, hopefully this was helpful. I did post a picture. I guess I couldn't go live yesterday, or couldn't do the recap yesterday, but I did post a picture. Hopefully you guys saw that. If you have questions, comments, again, feel free. At this point, if you've been with me for a while, you should kind of know this strategy and know kind of where you want to take these trades, right? Remember, this is a 80% strategy. So you're supposed to be wrong 30% of the time. Okay. But if you're wrong, if you're using a 2-to-1 risk to reward ratio and you're wrong 30% of the time, you are still making a whole heck of a lot of profit. All right. So just remember that. It's not the be all end all, but from as you're working and doing things like that, it's actually a nice, it's a nice mechanical way to take the trades that you know, you don't have to worry about a lot of variables. You're just letting the price tell you what to do. Okay. Now I do again. Of course, I always add in things like let's look at what our fair value gaps are doing. Let's look at sell side and buy side liquidity and how we're taking those out. And what happens when we get to that point? Do we reject, or what really happens? So there are other variables in here, but just from an overall strategy standpoint, it's a pretty cut and dry, like I said, ABC 1, 2, 3 type of strategy. All right. Anyway, again, hope this was helpful. Hope you guys have a great night, and I will talk to you later. If tomorrow gives us more good vibes, we'll have another recap. If we're stuck inside of a range, then we probably won't. All right. But anyway, love on your loved ones. You never know when you won't be able to do it again. So take advantage of the opportunities. Just had a friend who lost his mother today. So saying a prayer for that family. But anyway, appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to you later.